Gene, your latest piece for the Washington Post is entitled "The Double Standard for Harris and Trump Has Reached a Breaking Point." And in it, you write in part, quote, "Somehow it is apparently baked into this campaign that Trump is allowed to talk and act like a complete lunatic, while Harris has to be perfect in every way. I don't know the answer to the chicken or egg question, whether media coverage is leading public perception or vice versa. But the disparate treatment is glaring. Let's review. First, Harris was criticized for not doing enough interviews. So she did multiple interviews where she was asked questions that held her accountable. I'm adding that, including with non-traditional media. She was criticized for not doing hostile interviews, so she went toe-to-toe with Bret Baier on Fox News. She was criticized as being comfortable only at scripted rallies, so she did unscripted events, such as the town hall on Wednesday. Along the way, she wiped the floor with Trump during their televised debate, the only one they had, because he won't debate again. Trump, meanwhile, stands before his MAGA crowds and spews nonstop lies, ominous threats, impossible promises, and utter gibberish. His rhetoric is dismissed or looked past without first being interrogated.
So Gene, chicken or the egg? I mean, who's to blame here?
This is so right.
You asked the question, but I will say the media 9 years in still don't know how to cover this guy because he says outrageous things every night. The papers just pass by him. I mean, you look the papers, even after he said, "I'm going to put the National Guard and the military after my Democratic opponents, enemies of the state." In any other time, any other presidential election, that would have been banner headlines in the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal. None of them had it on the front page.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of shocking. Look, you're absolutely right that we have not collectively learned how to cover Donald Trump over the last 10 years. Some of us have, but a lot of us haven't, and so that's definitely a factor. But it's also true that when the media do cover some just inescapable excess of Trump's, and I talk to people or hear from people on the Republican side who've read it, who've heard it, who know all about it, and they just shrug. And so it's not that nothing is sinking in. It's not that nothing is going out there about Trump. So that's why I'm not fully ready to say it's all the media's fault. I don't think you can say it's going to be the fault of the New York Times if Donald Trump wins. I think there's a lot of guilt to go around. But I wrote that column just because I wrote it on Wednesday, and I wrote it because in the morning I was listening to the audio of Michael Schmidt's interview with General Kelly, Donald Trump's longest-serving chief of staff, his closest aide in the White House, telling us how Trump was a literal fascist. Textbook definition of fascist, how he admired Hitler, how he wanted to be a dictator. This is the guy who worked for him for a year and a half and is telling us, without being partisan about it, it's like flashing red lights and blazing sirens about voting for Donald Trump again and giving him that power again. And then that night, Vice President Harris does a town hall on CNN, and for good reason, in my opinion, she answers a lot of questions with that kind of criticism of Donald Trump. He is a fascist. You can't vote for this guy. We have a choice here, and we need to make the right choice. And then afterwards, and the next day, I hear and I read all this about, well, did she close the deal? Was she specific enough here or there? This is an existential question, people, and it's just not the same thing. They're not being covered in the same way remotely. And I think not being covered in a fair way.
And last night, Donald Trump calling the United States of America, quote, a garbage can, just to add to the rhetoric there. So, Jon Meacham, we have reached a strange, extraordinary, perhaps dark place when we can get this big piece from The Atlantic and Jeffrey Goldberg, and we can hear directly from General Kelly talking to Michael Schmidt of the New York Times about his admiration for generals of the Nazi army. Why can't my generals be more like Hitler's generals? Denigrating veterans, denigrating service members who've died, things like that. And people just, we talk to a lot of the similar people who like Donald Trump, and they say, he didn't mean that. That's just Trump being Trump. He's blowing off steam. There's always some excuse, some landing place they give him, and perhaps themselves, to be able to put their heads down and march through it.
That's exactly it. You know, Vice President Harris isn't on trial here in the same way President Biden wasn't on trial when he was running. We are. The American people are on trial. And if we choose, if a sufficient number of us in a sufficient number of states choose to ignore the evidence that, as the Bible says, those with eyes to see and ears to hear can detect, then there's no, we have no excuse. We might have an explanation, which is that for a series of reasons, people are not holding the Republican Party and the nominee of that party to rational account. And I think that this is a test of citizenship in a way that certainly you'd have to go back, I think, to both the 19th century and the civil rights era to find anything equivalent. I think Gene's exactly right in that the conventional media conversation just isn't commensurate to, and hasn't been for a long time, to this election. This is not Bob Dole and George Mitchell duking it out with Bob Novak. You know, it's just, that's like talking about the Peloponnesian War, right? This just isn't that. And, you know, we can lament it, and we should, but what we really have to do, I think, is insist that if you believe in what you say you believe, and everybody we know, Willie, everybody we know believes that they're constitutionalists, they're Americans, they believe in the country. Well, if you believe that, if that's what you say you believe, patriotism is not nationalism, and Trump is a nationalist. It's nationalism is loyalty to your own kind, right? To people who look like you, who are exactly like you. Patriotism is allegiance to an idea. The idea that, as Thomas Jefferson articulated it, and the Constitution has tried to actuate it, and however imperfectly, we've managed to realize just a little bit more through the years. And that's been the conversation in America. And the conversation could take a radical, risky, and possibly irreversible turn if we don't pay attention.
Yeah.
So thank you, John, as
true.
always. So eloquent, and it's such an important message. By the way, if you had Peloponnesian War on your bingo ticket this morning for Jon Meacham, you can check that off. Harper's Ferry will be the final for many ticket holders, and you can, of course, shop bingo, and we will send you a $1 million check from Elon Musk. Jon Meacham, as always.
Thank you, Meacham.
Thank you so much. Very, very important words.
All right.